So tell me when you're recording. All right. So I'm excited for tonight. Jessica Roswell has graciously offered to speak to us on all the up and coming changes to social media, especially what we use. This is in her line of business. She knows what's going on. She's ahead of the game, and she's going to help us be ahead of the game. So thank you so much, Jessica, for taking the time to speak with us tonight. And I can't wait to hear what you have to say.
Absolutely. So thank you. Am I talking? Are you hearing me? Okay. So, yeah, obviously this started, back on some conversations on our team page, and I was jumping in, and then Dana messaged me and asked if I'd like to kind of continue to expand upon this. Shared a little bit with one of the posts about myself. So my 9-to-5 job, just so you're aware, I'm the Assistant Athletic Director of Marketing and Social Media at Pacific Lutheran University. It's a NCAA Division III institution here in Tacoma. And so what that means is I manage all of our marketing, especially our content development for 19 varsity sports. Prior to that, I worked for the PGA Tour. And then I also have an MBA in marketing with a focus in content development. And so this gets me going. I remember I was talking to Melissa just about how this got my juices going and getting excited to talk about all this. And especially right now, because there are a lot of changes coming down. So as I was laughing and sharing earlier, I have notes, but to try and keep me to the best of my ability. Yes, we're going to try. Really looking at this from as much of a big picture to a certain degree, and give you some tools that we can do. And then I really think, especially because I'm expecting a lot more changes within the social media world, that this could be something that we're going to have ongoing conversations. I'm willing to do much more of this. Again, I study this, I look at it, I read it daily, I'm working on it for my work accounts and all those types of things. So this is not a one-time really thing. This is social media is changing all the time. So I'm going to start a little bit with some landscape over where we are for social media and how we got to where we are, and why this is happening and what these changes mean. So in the social media marketing world, we call the big three, and then there's the fourth plus. The big three are Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The fourth plus is Snapchat, and we kind of have an asterisk on it, especially in the sports marketing world, because it's the most difficult platform for brands to use. For what we do in Beachbody, it actually is a very valuable platform, because it's all about relationships and communicating back and forth. But I'm not even going to touch it tonight, because it is a whole different beast in terms of how it works. So if you are interested in Snapchat, that can be an entirely different conversation. But we're going to talk about, we're going to touch on Twitter and Instagram a tiny bit, and then we're really going to focus on Facebook, because that's where the biggest changes are coming. So to kind of give you an idea of why this, what some people in the industry are calling the Facebook apocalypse, has happened. And I don't think anybody would be surprised if you pay any attention. You understand that in the last 2 years, from about October of 15 through November of 16, social media became the platform for fake news, clickbait, bots, everything else. This is not meant to be a political piece, but that is exactly what it was. And so a lot of people came down hard on these networks that they needed to change. And Twitter announced today that they have 100% proof that Russian bots influenced conversation within the last 2 years. So we all know that this is happening. So Mark Zuckerberg, about a year ago, started to make changes and pledges to clean up the platform. There was the idea of the Explore tab, which does exist. If you pay attention to your right-hand nav on your, actually left-hand, sorry, your left-hand nav on your computer screen, the Explore tab exists. And so, but it really didn't do what they wanted it to do, and I'm not sure where it's going to go, but it's still out there, so that's something we'll continue to look at. But really, truly, Mark Zuckerberg said recently, and this is a direct quote from him, and this is how he's cleaning up the platform, is that Facebook is switching from a place of helping you find relevant content to helping you have more meaningful social interactions. And basically what's happening is it is reverting back to what Facebook started as 5 years ago. So in the last 5 years, Facebook has been a home for publishers. That's businesses, marketers, people like myself, bloggers, And what happened is anybody and everybody became a publisher. I could become an expert. And I hate that word, by the way, but I could say I'm an expert on all things black pens, and I could create a blog, and then I suddenly got a page, and I suddenly got traction on Facebook, and suddenly somebody's sharing my story, and it went viral. And that is how these fake news stories and these, what they called scrims, there's also conversation pods, there's a few different terminologies for all of these things, but this is how a lot of this started to snowball. And so Mark Zuckerberg basically said he is going to put money to the side and he's going to clean up the platform, which is huge. But what does this mean? And that is that he is changing the way businesses and pages interact on Facebook. And if you see me looking around, I have a small 12-pound orange furball child that is currently trying to make an appearance on this. Melissa, yes, she's trying to get on the screen. She's right over there. So if I yell or scream, that's just the cat. So that's what is going on. And so more than anything, he is trying to clean up the experience and turn this back into a human-to-human conversation. So this is where we go into the what does this mean for us? In my 9-to-5 side of the world, this is huge because this leads to revenue generation from a lot of different pieces. The sports world is a little freaked out in terms of things, but in our world, it's not as big of a deal if we stay true to what we are doing, which is building relationships. So to give you a little bit of idea of what's happening from a change standpoint, the first thing is that the news feed is crowded. I think we all know this. There's just way too much out there. People are sharing this junk, basically. So what Facebook is going to do with the algorithm is they now are going to show you more content from people and less from publishers, which are brands, businesses, media sources, and things like that. And that does include video. Sorry, I had to squirt the cat. The other side of this is that pages, your organic reach on pages is going to decrease. My work page has already seen about a 50% decrease, but that's okay because I'm going to, one, talk about ways that you can overcome that, and two, don't freak out and start boosting pages. Don't start boosting posts. Don't start spending money. Truly continue to get your customers, your people. It's about building relationships, so continue to engage in those conversations. And then the last piece of this is that expect more changes to come. One of the things that Mark Zuckerberg talked about as well is that he talked about there will be continuous things coming to all of their products. Facebook owns Instagram. They launched an algorithm about, I think it was March or April of last year. It's not nearly as crazy as Facebook's algorithm. It does make some changes. The number one thing about Instagram's algorithm is know that nothing is in the actual timeline. So I got to see everybody's New Year's Eve celebrations on January 4th. So in terms of timely countdowns, in terms of trying to say that something's starting in an hour, it doesn't mean squat. It really needs to be what we would call more evergreen. And if I say something that you don't understand, I sometimes get into marketing jargon. Just raise your hand, flag, ask the question. Because I don't want to speak in terminology that doesn't make sense. But with Instagram, expect more changes. It's going to be interesting to see how some of this rolls out. But right now, it's happening on Facebook. So what do we know and what do we do? First and foremost, it's about building engagement. But you have to do it the right way. I kind of alluded to this in one of the posts that we were talking about. One of the things that's going to punish you in the algorithm is doing what's called engagement bait. And I'm going to be full on blunt. I'm seeing it all over the place from Beachbody coaches from the top all the way down in training sessions. I think some of the stuff that Jesse Reagan says is great, but looking at his page today, 10 posts used engagement bait just within my scroll down. That will punish you in the algorithm. So what is engagement bait? It's vote baiting, like baiting, tag baiting, share baiting, react baiting, comment baiting. Basically, it's anything where you say, I want you to post. Like this post and tell me what you want. Tag a friend in this post. Comment below and I'll get back to you. That's all bad in the algorithm. So you have to focus on relevant and meaningful stories or content to get people to comment. It's tricky. It is something that takes time. It's something that takes practice. It's very, very hard to not say, I just finished an awesome workout, comment if you want to join me, or tell me if you finished yours. It's very difficult to find that way of communicating without doing it. But once you find it, it comes. And but just focus on that. It's about creating these relevant and meaningful stories without baiting people to interact with you, because those won't be seen as positive interactions. So that's where you need to craft thoughtful posts that will spur conversations. Here's the other side of this. These conversations just can't be between you and the other person. If I'm the page, and I have both my work page and I have actually my like page for Beachbody, but my only conversation is Maureen posting on my like page saying, awesome job, Jessica, and I respond, that's great, but that's not really what they want. What they actually want is this human-to-human conversation where Maureen says, that's awesome, Jessica, that you went from, I don't know, I'm making this up, 10 pounds to 12 pounds, way to go. And Ramses jumps in and goes, whoa, that's super impressive. And that starts a conversation between Maureen and Ramses. That's what they want. It's human-to-human communication. They still look at like pages as a business, not a human. So that is where, one, don't run over and do all this on your personal page per se, but this is where it's tricky. You have to create these human-to-human conversations. So we are at an advantage because Maureen can post on her like page as her empower me, and she can talk about her workout, and Ramses can comment, and then Maureen can go back in on her personal page and have those conversations and hope others join in. In my world, in my day job, I can't do that. Jessica Roswell cannot comment as PLU Athletics. It makes no sense. No one has any idea what or care what I say. So this is even more difficult in that sense. But we have a little bit of advantage in terms of creating that. This is the one thing that I mentioned before, and this actually, Jesse Reagan hit this on the nail on the head in his video, which is live. Live video is going to take off. So traditional video is going to drop in its standard interactions unless you're getting those human-to-human conversations. But live video, all the data, everything shows live video gets 6 times the interaction as a stagnant regular video. The viewership times are longer, and that's another thing that might be changing. There's a lot of things that go into that. So live video is another thing that's kind of hard. I've gone live several times and I talk to myself. Yes, that is going to happen. You're going to have that a lot. You're going to start by talking to yourself, but over time you'll build it and they will come. The other side with live video, which is why it even has the 6 times more interactions, is that it lives on your page and people go back to it and it pops up first in terms of where the algorithm ranks it. So even if nobody jumped on your live video and all you're doing, like I did the other day, was talking about how I have more strength than I knew I had, and nobody cared. But a friend of mine went back later and said, you're such an inspiration because of the fact that you keep pushing and you keep trying yourself. That is what they want. So when in doubt, go live. Again, it's hard. It's not easy. I hate it. There's a lot of things in here that I don't like doing personally, partially because I do it so much during the day. But this is what you want to do. This is how you want to be successful. This is how to beat the algorithm. The other thing that I haven't seen in any Beachbody language yet, which is interesting to me, but is heavily within a lot of the marketing groups that I read, which is, and I don't know if you all knew this, but you can go into pages and ask to see it first in your timeline. And you as an individual on a profile page can have 30 see firsts. So you want those people you want to turn your audience, your community into see firsters. So you want Melissa to go to my page and say see first so that it shows up in her timeline. That is them asking to see your content. And I mentioned this to Maureen in one of our rounds on the team page that kind of spurred some of this about getting them to want to see your content and getting them to want to engage and crave that content. A see firster, that's what they want. So it's something really simple. It's up where it says like, and you can unfollow and the notifications and all of that. Well, within it, it says see first. Oh, there she is. She made an appearance. Melissa, I think she just wanted to say hi to you. But so you want to turn your audience into see firsters. That's then telling you they want your content, they're seeking out your content, and then they're going to react and engage in your content. More than anything, organically, that's what you want. You're not paying for these people, and you can do that. And so then all of us, you have 30 see first on your personal profile. So it doesn't have to be Beachbody. It doesn't have to be anything, but you have those. So use them for yourself too, wisely, to keep pages that you want content-wise in your feed. Because even, and we'll talk about groups a tiny bit, but even group content is going to be changing. So if we are part of the Beachbody Champions group, or you're part of Autumn's test group right now, which I'm not, but I know some of you are, as well as I've heard there's been a lot of content coming out of it. You can be a see firster to where you're going to see all of that, or if you don't want to see any of it, you don't have to. The next piece, which is really just touch lightly, is just be aware of the pay to play, and understand that if you're suddenly seeing things popping up in your news feed, there's a good chance people are playing for that. This was the big push 5 years ago, is that Instagram really was moving pages away from organic, and they wanted them to pay for everything. Now it's not so much, but the next step in all of this, and it's something that I've got to pay attention to in the other side of my world, is you're boosting your pages, your ads, your messenger bots. I'm going to learn a little bit more about messenger bots, because I do think from a relationship standpoint, it might help some of us, for those of people that are messaging your page and asking for more information. Build the relationships with them, but a messenger bot immediately responds enough to where they know that you care, and it gets them into your funnel and out of your unknowns on the messenger. Plus, it will feed your content to them. So that's something that's on my radar. I'm not very familiar with it, but I'm going to learn. So continuing all of this, something that, again, Jesse Reagan said this, and it goes into all the other things that I've talked about, is that foundationally, we are a business about building relationships. So that's what social media was designed for. So if we remember that, and we remember that we're here to engage with each other, that we're here to share our stories, Melissa, I owe you a shot, but authentic, real, raw, all of that, you will succeed and find all of this. It's going to take some time, but just know all of that. Operate your likes page just as you would your personal page. Keep it very similar. You don't need to get very businessy on your like page. You don't. And they don't really want you to within the algorithm. That's where the small businesses are going to hurt those that don't have this ability to build these relationships and share these stories. Don't ignore people. Have conversations. This is my one word is engage, engage, engage. That one I will totally admit to. And then this is a piece that when you really get into it, I don't know how many of you, as you pay attention on likes pages or even on your personal page, if you're looking at insights or you're paying attention, I stare at analytics probably about an hour to 2 hours a day. I actually really enjoy social media analytics. I'm a dork like that. But know what your audience is looking for and what they're engaging in. So I already talked about live video and how awesome that is, but are they then paying attention to your post-workout photos? Or are they paying attention to your food photos? What is it that they are paying attention to and interacting with? And focus on that. Build content around that. I used to laugh, and actually when I first got into Beachbody just for myself before I was even coaching, that I turned my Snapchat into a cooking show. I would live Snapchat to all my friends what I was cooking, and it turned around and got a few customers for me because they wanted to know how the heck was I making turkey chili all the time with wine or banana pancakes that were so good and actually losing weight. So find out what that is. And that's, it takes time. If you're not in analytics or you don't have enough analytics, sometimes that can be a struggle. The other side is we're not salespeople. One thing that for me, we have product. We're not, and Melissa knows this because I have a friend that sells in another MLM who drives me bonkers with her push of product. Really, our biggest value, and they talk about this all over the place, is us. We are the product. So ultimately, we can beat all of these changes on Facebook if we share our stories. Facebook is about storytelling. I'm working right now on an episodic weekly video for work because that's what our audience is craving. So what is that your audience is craving, and what is that story, and you tell that. That's the best pieces of content are going to come from all of that. We talked about, like I said, we've got 3 + 4 social media platforms. Focus your efforts. Don't be too many places at once. Because I'm talking about Snapchat a little bit and then I turned it into a cooking show. Don't suddenly think you need to be on Snapchat. Don't think you suddenly need to be on anywhere else. Focus where you can be successful. There's going to be continuous changes in social media. As I said, the news this morning out of Twitter, 100% have proof that Russian bots are influencing conversation. I'm expecting big changes out of Twitter as Jack Dorsey tries to clean up the platform. So if you're not familiar with Twitter, don't suddenly turn it into a business channel. It's my favorite channel, actually. So I said groups a little bit. Groups are of value to us, especially when you're doing challenge groups, because they have lots of meaningful conversation. I know the challenge group that I'm in with Melissa, and I think Martha, no, she's still there. Martha, Kristen's in our group. We have fantastic conversations and we share and we talk. That's going to help with the algorithm because those conversations are going to bring group posts up higher in those members' feeds. So what does this mean? Free groups. This means whatever you can do to get potential customers, current customers, whatever, into some capacity like that, where those meaningful conversations are going to happen and the information is going to pop up higher. And so whatever that is, a book group, I don't know, whatever you so choose. There's a lot of you that have different goals and different attributes, but one of those things is whatever that is, that content is going to show up in the algorithm. I'm also going to forewarn you that you're going to see a lot of it in your own algorithm because you're participating, which means it's going to just be all over the place. So that's Facebook. Before I touch slightly on Instagram, are there any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So what is your take on for getting interaction on your like page? What is your take on doing stuff like sharing your like page posts to your personal page to get interaction?
Absolutely. Definitely you can share it. Shares are not going to have as much power in the new algorithm as they used to, and they're also not going to be as much as comments, but shares are still more powerful than likes, and they still rank up there. It also is a #1 way to show people that you have this other page. So one, you want to invite them over and you want to get them over there. And I am also a big proponent of not just inviting somebody to come to the page without an explanation. So that's something that's important to me in terms of, I do this with work even. If I'm sending it out to people, I try to make sure they know why I'm sending this link to them. But more than anything, yes, share the page, share it to your personal page. Again, be careful though that you don't ask for them to share it, or you don't ask for that comment baiting, because even if it's shared to your personal page and then you say it in the message, still will ding you. And these changes will also affect your personal page. There's going to be some things, especially the engagement baiting piece, that affect your personal page. If you're engagement baiting on your personal page right now, even not related to Beachbody, just saying, Star Wars tag if you've seen the movie, it's going to react negatively. All of these tactics that marketers, including myself, have been using for, goodness gracious, I've been on the platform for 7 years or so, back with the golf tournament. It's all going to count negative now. So you have to be careful that shares are valuable.
So, Jessica, are you saying all these, respond with a GIF, I don't even know how to say that word. All those kind of posts.
Language, or you want what everybody says?
Whatever. Make me cool. I have to go be with college students in 5 minutes.
They'll call them GIFs, but the real way to say it is GIF. I hate to break it to everybody's. Yeah.
Okay, so using those kind of posts below, how you know me or how your morning's going, that's bad. Okay.
That's engagement baiting. Yep. And again, these are tactics that we've all done, and we've done it. I can even get into on likes pages, things where, and you may have seen this if you're planning an event or you're putting something in about, I'm going to be on at 6 p.m. It'll say, hey, are you planning an event? That's them trying to get you to follow what they want in the algorithm. It's actually not because they don't want you to say that. It's because it's not going to get the same reach as a post as it would as an event page or an event listing. All of that is engagement bait. And I posted an article, and I can repost a pretty simple one and then some other stuff in regards to it. It's difficult. It's probably the biggest thing that's going to affect people.
What's the difference between that, asking them to share how you know me, and asking like a genuine question, like for recommendations?
Recommendations is that you're using something within, like if you say, and you're using that actual tab that's on Facebook, you're using something they've built into the platform.
So that's a good thing. Use that when you can.
Yeah. So if you want recommendations on restaurants or when you're traveling, use that recommendations. That's good. That's okay. The other side is you want to ask questions that get answers without begging for the answer. That's basically what this is. So to Martha's point of saying, I've had a great morning, respond with a gift to tell me how yours is. You got to find a way. And I hate that word expert, because this is where I'm still trying to figure it out. How do you ask that question without asking for the response? It takes time. So it's, how do you take your coffee in the morning? How do you, because I'm sitting here drinking a cup of hot tea. This is my calming in the evening afternoon. What kind of tea do you like? That's not begging for the response. Whereas comment below what your favorite tea is, that's begging for the response. Does that make sense? It's a tricky one. It definitely is. But it's a big one.
I have a question. What about does it hurt or not the algorithm if you tag someone in a comment to bring them into conversation?
That does not hurt. It's if you say, tag your friends to share this with them, or tag your friends that need XYZ. That's what it's bad. So I'll say, I'm heading to a sorority function this weekend. And so, so excited to see the Violet Bubble. Hey, Melissa. And then Melissa's going to a different one. So I can comment in there, hey, Melissa House, Cincinnati. That's okay, because I'm bringing her into the conversation. But if I put up at the top, heading off to RLC, tag everyone that's going, that's what's bad. Does that make sense?
It does. But is there not necessarily an advantage then to tagging people in?
You can tag people into the conversation, and there is a little bit of an advantage. It's you begging for others to tag you. Hey, little kitties. Daisy.
Yeah.
Daisy, wherever she ran off to.
So the original, let's see if I understand. The original post is affected by the algorithm, but not what's coming under the post, not the interaction from the people.
Well, yes and no. You won't be hit negatively for tags, but what will do better is conversation under your posts.
Yeah.
The longer the comment, the better it is in the algorithm.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, whatever happens in that conversation is not going to affect for example, I make a post, whatever, right? And then you all start, talking down there, and then you go in there and start tagging so-and-so and say, hey, what do you guys think about this? Comment below me. Does that affect that doesn't affect?
Well, you don't want them to say comment below me, but if they do it and it's not you, it's okay. So if I jump in and I say, Ramses is having an awesome argument over whether we should drink vanilla or vegan vanilla. Hey, Maureen, what do you think? Share below. It's not that bad, but because I'm not the one begging for the comment. But if you get into the comment and you start begging for more, they're going to pick up that it's you. Okay. These algorithms are smart.
All right.
They're scary. These tech people are scary. But you want that conversation below, though. So that you actually do want. So whatever that question is that spurs that conversation, you do want it. And if say Maureen goes in and starts tagging all of us because it's something funny or she thinks we all should watch it or whatever it is. No, that's not gonna, you're not begging for the tagging. The baiting is you're begging for something, if that makes sense.
I just wanted to say, when did this stuff change? Because I've noticed since I have been asking for a like or a share or tag your friend that could use this kind of advice, I've gotten 0 interaction on my like page. 0, literally 0.
So engagement bait rolled out November-ish,
Yeah.
but it really rolled out quiet. And they started to talk about it in terms of shifting. But it really wasn't blown up in terms of that it was going to basically wipe your page out until this recent, again, Facebook apocalypse, as Michael Selsner is calling it, the big deal that came out
I feel like it just happened, like recent, very, very recent. So I'm not getting any more.
It faded in November and December, and then it really dropped. I mean, like I said, my like page for work is down 50%. Our women basketball team won the first game in 2 years on Friday night, and the numbers were just awful compared to what we were getting in September and October for losses. So it's big.
So basically, trying to like put this all together, you can't be asking for people to like or share or comment.
Nope.
You want people to be commenting and like having a conversation under your post, but not necessarily me only. Like me, you, Melissa, Christy, and Dana.
Yep.
That is going to get that post more interaction.
That's going to blow that post up. Yes.
So then, I was on a training, like a week ago, I think. And it was one of those, like, here's a free 30-minute training. And like 25 minutes of it was to try to get somebody to buy a product. And like 5 minutes was to like tell me what this woman was talking about. And what she was saying the same thing about live videos. Live videos are where it's at. And however long your video is, so like, let's say I did a 5-minute video, a quarter of my video, I need to have people interacting in the beginning part and staying on it, because that's going to get it more interaction.
It is, but it's not, no matter what, it's kind of it's the field of dreams. If you build it, they will come.
Right.
So if you don't have anybody on your live video at first, it's not going to kill you, because it is going to continue to show up. You got to keep doing it, keep going consistently, and keep having those conversations, because yes, the interactions, one, it provides you more content to talk about. So, if people were asking me live questions right now, goodness knows where we could be all over the place. But it also, that interaction continues to raise it within the algorithm.
So if I said in my video, if you're watching me live, because that's what I did. I said, if you're watching me live, give me a fist pump emoji. And if you're seeing this after the fact, do in my live video, I was saying this, give me the flex. Are they going to shut my video down?
No.
Because I got a shit ton of interaction.
This is the other advantage to live video. And actually, if you watch Michael Selsner's video on this, you watch Jay Baer's video on this, which I actually had a great Jay Baer quote that I just pulled right before I came on here, that content is fire and social media is, I love it. If you watch any of Jesse Reagan's video, I think I watched 4 or 5 of them. The very first thing they say is share this out. Share this out, or tag people that need to understand what's going on into this piece. Because when you're talking live, the algorithm can't necessarily figure out what you're talking about. So it's different than the engagement bait, where in my written it out, they can tell what I'm doing. So in the live video, you can say it. Now in the episodic video, which is what they call video that you upload, one, they are moving a lot of episodic TV to the watch tab, similar to explore tab. It's a whole nother thing. I'm trying to figure that out for work. None of us really do episodic television, or episodic videos. But if you were to do something that was much more created and edited and produced, then you can get hit by some of the algorithm pieces because of the fact that they do scan all of that and listen to the words. They don't do it with live, and they don't even do it when it's replaying. Yet, goodness knows what'll happen in the next 6 months. Honestly, I couldn't tell you. But
but for right
this
now,
is going to be excellent
okay.
for
So if I were to write something like,
just in a regular post, like are you ready to whatever, and not necessarily say comment below or anything like that. It's just like an open question, like, are you ready to like succeed in whatever? Like, would that be considered baiting? Because I'm like asking a question, like
It can be. This is where it
that
gets
kind of needs a response.
That's where this is getting, we're still figuring out some of this, and the current articles and the current information tied to engagement bait is specifically saying vote below, like this post, tags those words. As this filters out, and as changes continue, which we are expecting more based off of Mark Zuckerberg's comments that his directive to his sales staff was for all products, not just Facebook and the timeline, but everything that they own, which is deep in the social media world. It could. I don't have a direct answer right now. I think it's a way to start and kind of test and see if it works and see if you're getting anything. Check and see the reach on it. It probably, if you're in your personal profile, it probably won't have as much of an adverse effect right now, because really they're just trying to get rid of these direct asks for interactions.
It's interesting though, in the last month or so, I feel like I'm getting way more engagement on my fitness page or my business page. And like, I just posted something that said, here's a recipe for healthy chicken nuggets. If you want it, post me below. And it's blowing up.
It's probably just the language. It might be you've got a built-in audience on it already, because going back to that piece of, you want to create these C-firsters, or you create these people that are craving your content, wanting your content. If you haven't posted in a while, or you haven't posted something like that, we all know January is the time of year where everybody wants to get fit. So maybe they're looking for something that could definitely play into it. There's a few different pieces that could lay into that. It really could just be a fabulous piece of content. Sometimes it just takes that. So knowing that, then try other recipes, try other things. And if you're still getting that kind of engagement, it might be what your audience is craving.
So to get C-firsters, what do you recommend? How do you ask them to do that?
In all honesty, I am sending out individual either messages or I'm sending out on my work page, we're doing messages, and we're doing we have subgroups within our page for alumni of different sports. And so I'm sending those out into those groups, saying, if you want to get your knowledge. The other side, and this is just from what I'm doing professionally on the 9-to-5 job. We have a newsletter sign up. So within my newsletter sign up, it says, follow us on Facebook. Also make sure that you say you want to see us first, and it shows them, it kind of gives them a brief little description. So we just rolled that out in the last week, because I wasn't even aware of this C-firster thing. I had heard about it, but didn't realize the value of it way back in, it started with the Explore tab, and I never really paid attention to it until this. And so that's kind of how we're rolling out. About those conversations. So, okay. So real quick, I want to talk about, I briefly touched on Instagram and their algorithm. This is the platform that in all honesty, I'm a little nervous about. And there's a lot of people out there that are slightly nervous to see what Zuckerberg may or may not do to Instagram. It is the one platform that really wasn't affected by much of the clickbaiting or any of the bots. So we're hoping that he doesn't touch it, but none of us trust him. So Instagram really, truly, it's really the basics. It's sticking with photos, clean, clear, beautiful photos. Don't necessarily have to go crazy in terms of super high quality from an investment standpoint, but the higher the quality, the better. A few little tips from having managed multiple Instagram accounts. Filters actually do affect the viewership of your photos. So be very cautious with filters. Don't over filter, as well as graphics. If you over graphic your videos or your photos, or you post too many graphics in a row, even if they're getting engagement, the platform doesn't like it. And so they want photos. Instagram, little sidebar piece of information about Instagram from a strategical standpoint. Disneyland has never posted a true piece of marketing photo on Instagram. They use completely user-generated content. That is what they want on Instagram. They want you to be posting photos so that all of us can use that content, including them. So don't do too many graphics because it will mess it up. The algorithm on Instagram is a little interesting. It's very similar. You want your likes, you want your comments. But even more in that side of it, the biggest piece is actually using the power of hashtags on Instagram, because that will amplify your photos and what you're doing. And most of us do that already in terms of finding what they are. My only piece of advice is make sure you know what you're actually hashtagging. Click on it before you hashtag. That's just a sidebar, because I'm still dealing with an issue at work from a football team that thought they had the best team hashtag ever, and it's not what they wanted. Then the other big piece, going in with that live video, Instagram stories. This is where you can have probably the biggest power to reach an audience, engage with an audience. It is now, if you're going on your stories and you're posting regularly, it'll pop up in others as suggested. It used to suggest profiles. It does suggest your profile, but it starts with your stories. So if you're not posting consistently on stories, if you're not using it, the other side is stories are timely and you can be creative because of the fact they only live for 24 hours, although you can archive them. You can get a little fun in them. You can go live, same thing. I personally, the one thing I do use very actively on my Instagram for Beachbody, I will fully admit I'm not necessarily the best in this because I deal with it so much for work, but I use it for accountability. I post my Shakeology every single day. I try to post, the fact that I walked around campus. That's so that my story is consistent to the best of my ability. We do a lot of stuff with work in terms of countdowns to events, silly different things. So you can have a lot more fun with stories, and the traction there can amplify your profile tremendously. That's really the gist right for them. I do expect more changes. They're not going to go back to a chronological algorithm, no matter how much the powers of the NFL attempt to get them there. So don't expect it. And if you're still seeing more graphics, run away.
I'm sorry. I just have a quick question. You said with stories that the more you post, it kind of suggests you to other people. What if you have like a private account? Does it doesn't. It's just to your people kind of
thing. It would just go to your people to make sure. Okay. Yeah. And I understand why people are private. Sorry, I do work with college students. My attitude is that if your Instagram is private, you're hiding something from me, because they're usually trying to stay eligible and doing things they're not supposed to be doing. But it's totally up to you in terms of what you want to do. But yeah, if you're private, it won't show up. It'll keep it within your network.
So along those lines, what about Facebook stories?
Oh, Facebook stories. The new thing they rolled out and they can't themselves figure out. It's really meant to be matched with Instagram. I don't use them a lot because my personal page is private, and actually pretty private. And that's the difference, is that my Instagram is public. My Instagram, I don't have any issues with any of the content that's posted. I'm very much more open on my Instagram. My Facebook personal profile is very hidden. So that's why I don't use them much on Facebook. So it's completely up to you. If you've got the ability and you're building relationships with people and you're connecting with them, it's a great source to connect with people. Absolutely. It really comes down to your profile settings, because it's going to do the same thing. It's going to only show up within the people in your network. So that's where on your like page, you can go live or you can provide content.
Okay.
So to this Instagram and Facebook stories, and then kind of like posting the same stuff on your page, I know there's like an option. If I do an Instagram story, I can post it to Instagram, I can post it to Facebook stories, and I can post it to my Facebook page. Do you recommend not posting the same content?
Yes and no. Okay. So, to beat the algorithm, it's kind of a question mark right now. It's not going to make any difference because they're two separate platforms. So as long as it's working for both. Where I say no is it depends on your audience. So, and I'm going to use my work accounts. Our Facebook audience is much older. it skews more towards alumni. I know my average age is about 32, and I know what they're looking for. My Instagram is my current student athletes and my potential student athletes between the ages of 15 and usually about 25. I know what they want. They don't want the same thing. So this is where you have to figure out your audience. Do you have the same audience on both platforms? Are you trying to track the same audience to both platforms? If you are, then I would mix it up. There's still some content that can go back and forth. I and Melissa, Martha, and Maureen see all of this. I post a lot of my cat, and it's the same picture on both platforms because she's adorable and everybody wants to see her. But I don't post the same stuff in regards to maybe what I'm eating or maybe what I'm doing throughout the day, or my gripes or certain other pieces don't necessarily cross over. And it just depends on where it's going. Again, going back to using the work account, the best is that I know what my audience is looking for. So it kind of comes down to that.
Okay. And what also about, so if I post something on like Facebook stories, it asks me if I want to share it as my story and as my post. Do you recommend against that or doing that? Like, so it's almost double posted on Facebook. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. And I've never done it. So I don't know what it would do. And no one's ever talked about it. Because we don't usually use Facebook, because you don't use Facebook pages on Facebook stories on like pages. So I haven't really dived into that.
Right.
That's a good question.
I mean, I feel like right now that Facebook stories is not popular yet. So I don't know that it would harm you at all.
I think they're trying to make it popular.
They are, which is why I think you can share now from IG right to
right. So it might help you.
I would agree with you, Christy, in the sense that as long as you're making these engaging and you're starting conversation, it's not going to go against you. And it is something that Facebook put time and effort into and want people to use. So, and the fact that you can push back and forth. So I do think it's probably a positive. And the fact that it hasn't come up as a negative, whereas some of the stuff has specifically been said is a negative, I would go with it. And if it changes and I read something, I'll let you know.
Okay.
You might have answered this already, and I'm sorry if I'm asking you the same question that Dana asked you. But when I'm posting on Instagram, Facebook owns Instagram.
Yep.
It asks if you want to share it. You could share it with all different kinds of places. You can share it to Facebook. You could share it to Twitter. Are those posts that you share from Instagram to a Facebook page not showing on Facebook?
No, they show. They show, but they will say that they're published through Instagram up at the top versus being organic to the Facebook platform. They show.
So, okay.
Because I feel like once upon a time.
I'm sorry, what?
Oh, I was going to say, because I feel like once upon a time we were told not to do that because it wouldn't show up.
No, they show up.
Instagram.
It's not, well, this is probably before Instagram owned or Facebook owned Instagram, because there was a lot of issues with the platform. And I would say this, if any of you do have a Twitter account, if you publish from Instagram to Twitter, it actually isn't a good thing. Because
damn.
It looks like a shortcut. There is conversation about third-party postings, and I know a lot of us use Hootsuite and a lot of us use Buffer or other channels.
Not anymore, they charge. You could do it through Facebook for free.
I was about to say, first and foremost, use Facebook's organic posting to the best of your ability. And since they own Instagram, I use the Instagram push back to my like page because I'll be honest, I'm much more active on my Instagram. And as long as I know I'm having fun and I don't care, and in all honesty that I don't care that my mom sees the content, because she's on Facebook and only, I push it and it doesn't do anything and I get interactions on it and I see it. The third party publishing side of things is going to be what is being predicted as the next level of what's going to change in the algorithm. Because there's a lot of us in the marketing world that are still using these third-party companies. So some of this might change, but because Instagram's part of Facebook's product line, I don't think that push is going to have an effect. It's more just, does it look organic? You know, the other big thing with that from a personal standpoint, and it does affect, is that hashtags don't play on Facebook as well, no matter what they say. So if you over hashtag at the bottom of a post, you can tell that it wasn't originally made for Facebook. There's things like that that can play into the way that it's perceived and the way that the algorithm can read it. But again, Instagram owns Facebook. They want the platforms to succeed. So yeah, I publish that way. Anything else? I know there's a lot. When I find articles, I'll post. If I find more stuff, like I said, this is a changing world. This is a pretty big one. So
I thought it was all really good info. I really appreciate you sharing it all with us. Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you. I had a few pages of notes, but I think Cora walked off with them.
Oh,
I'm definitely
Yeah,
going to have to listen again, but I think that this is really helpful. Like,
good. Well, ask if there's any more questions or there's anything else again, or wanting clarification, post on the team page, and I can, continue the conversation there. Besides, that's engagement and meaningful conversation. And then again, if I find anything else rolls out, there is a huge conference in April called Social Media Marketing World. That is 6 days of just thousands of people that do this day in and day out and eat and breathe it even worse than I do. And so there's usually a lot of information that comes from there. And then I go to an industry conference in June every year where Facebook and Twitter both actually speak to us and share what's going on with the platform and how it pertains specifically to sports. But there's always stuff in there, because Melissa knows this, because I'm usually going crazy on Twitter and Facebook Messenger with her about things that I'm learning. And so there's always something there that I can usually take and we can translate it over. And it'll be interesting this year to meet with Nick, the Facebook rep, and see what he says. Because there's people not happy with them.
Well, thank you. Anytime you feel like you have enough info and you want to chat with us, even if it's like, can I grab the call for 10 minutes? Just let me know. And
Okay.
I'm sure we would all appreciate it. So thank you very much.
Here to help.
I think it's going to be a big help. I don't want to take up any more of your guys' time. It's 10 o'clock. So I'm sure you guys are all exhausted. Who's completely wiped from 80 days? I feel like it's wiping me out. I'm not so sore as just completely and totally fatigued. Like all my muscles are fatigued.
Yeah, I'm tired.
I'm tired, and I get to go sit in a sorority meeting now. I can hear them out there, masses of young women's voices. Yay.
Yeah, I felt the soreness yesterday the most.
Did you do the foam roller? Was beyond me. I just could not figure it out.
I got it to a point, but I need to work on it.
Yeah.
But I was feeling those spots that were really tight.
I was, but then my arms and my shoulders started hurting.
Yeah.
am I good to stop
I
recording?
hate the foam roller.
Yeah. I was just coming over to tell you that.